Let me know if this marketing advice sounds familiar. Push your customers' emotional hot buttons. Tap into their dopamine loops. Use reciprocity so they feel indebted to you. This modern marketing advice comes from primarily the psychological and the behavioral economics schools of thought. And I've read all the books on them. I recommended the books. Influence by Robert Cialdini. I recommended that countless times. Predictably Irrational, The Illusion of Choice. But something always felt a little bit off about them, and I finally figured out what it was. The problem is when you're doing marketing and you take the psychology or behavioral economics school of thought as your main framework, it tends to turn into a reductionist view of a human being. It starts to treat the person on the other side, your prospect, your potential customer or client, as a system to be triggered. And so we have to ask, before we ask if a marketing tactic works, we have to ask, what does it assume about the person that we're speaking to? Does it assume that they're a rational being who can weigh evidence and understand a case that is being made to them and freely make a choice? Or does it assume they're basically a lab rat? That might sound harsh, but you heard those phrases that I said. Listen to them again. Trigger this dopamine response. Activate this cognitive bias. The customer becomes really nothing more than a bundle of chemicals to be triggered. And the marketer's job is to pull the right lever. Pull the right lever at the right time and get the reaction that you want. And the problem is that this is not just a marketing tactic, it's really a philosophy about what a human being is. And it's one that I've come to reject. The fatal flaw here is reducing human beings down to their component parts. That's what I mean by reductionism. And hey, it's a great thing to do in certain cases. I was huge into it, especially in college when I was studying clean energy. I remember looking through my microscope at all these algae cells that were just packed with oil. And this is oil that could power our cars and our homes and give us abundant clean energy. And that was only possible by reducing the algae down to its component parts, understanding how that system works, and then we could use that to solve real-world problems. That's the scientific method at work. And although it works for the natural world, something sinister happens when we apply that to human beings. What happens when marketers look at human beings the same way a scientist looks at algae through a microscope? At first, it seems powerful. You notice that humans respond to urgency, so you inject urgency into your marketing campaigns. You notice that humans tend to reciprocate, so you give them something first, hoping that in return, they'll buy from you. And you see that humans tend to fear loss more than they desire gain. So you start to frame all your offers around them missing out on something. None of these observations are necessarily wrong. The problem is when you reduce humans down to that, what it assumes about them. At this point, they are essentially stimulus response machines, predictable animals. In his book Influence, Robert Cialdini even compared human beings to turkeys. The basic idea is that animals can be triggered by certain cues, and so can human beings. The problem is when you apply this to humans, something goes terribly wrong. Yes, human beings often act out through instinct or habits or emotion, but we also painted the Mona Lisa. We built cathedrals, we wrote symphonies, we bury the dead, we forgive our enemies, we search for truth. Unlike turkeys, we are rational beings made in the image of God who are capable of self-mastery, virtue, and grace. This does not mean that humans are perfectly rational. Obviously, we're not. But it does mean that humans are unique and we are more than our cognitive biases and our triggers, and marketing should treat us as such. And this is where psychology alone is not enough. What we need is philosophy. And fun fact, psychology is a relatively new field and is split off from the field of philosophy about 150 years ago. And modern marketing has inherited a lot of modern psychology's tools without the philosophical foundation. Psychology cannot tell us how we ought to treat human beings. For that, we need philosophy. If your customer is really just this bundle of chemicals, then why not just stir those chemicals and spark a behavior from them? There's nothing special about those chemicals. But if you see this human being as different, as special, as having reason and agency and dignity, then we need to treat them differently. Then the goal is persuasion. And persuasion is different. Persuasion means giving people reasons. It literally means working with a human being's capacity to reason rather than trying to bypass it. And that's why I believe that marketing should be argument driven. An argument assumes something very different about your customer. When you make an argument, you assume that a person can understand your argument. You assume they can follow a line of thought. You assume that they can weigh evidence. You assume that they can freely make a choice for themselves. You stop treating them like a lab rat and you start treating them like a person. The shift is straightforward and has a direct impact on your day-to-day marketing efforts. You start asking, what would give this person a reason to believe? What would honestly answer their skepticism? You are now building a case because you're assuming that the person can understand that case. And I'll tell you, it affects the type of customer that you get. You get people who buy for real reasons. You get people who value what you offer and stick around. You get clients and customers who refer you to friends. Your refund rates go down. Your complaints go down. Your headaches go down. So not only is it the right thing to do, it works better long-term in your business. This is the difference between psychology-driven marketing and argument-driven marketing. Psychology-driven marketing first asks, what lever can I pull? Argument-driven marketing asks, what beliefs can I build? And that is the type of marketing I want to practice, and that is what is being practiced by the people in our community. And I think more people should follow this new approach to marketing. If you want to go deeper into this, I wrote a manifesto on this, and you can find it at marketingisanargument.com. And if you want more videos like this on marketing and persuasion and the dignity of the person that you're speaking to, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.